Gentleman right here.
First of all, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
First of all, welcome to Columbus. We're really glad to have this opportunity. We live right across the street, and we've used this for our civic association meetings before. My question is, my wife and I are both 75. It seems like we've lived with the threat of war all our lives, and we're just sort of getting sick of war.
Amen.
I think all of
I
you
heard
feel that
that.
way, probably, on our age. And do you feel that maybe we get this Iraq war wound down, which it appears to be slowing down at this point, at least according to the news media? We don't always know everything from the news media, of course. But do you think some of those funds could be diverted to the health care and so on? The defense budget could be cut because we really just don't understand. We have troops back in every country in the world. I mean, and there's such a large budget, and there's so much could be done here at home, and I don't think, I'm a little disturbed. I don't hate to say it, but both my wife and I are both registered Republicans. We might be the token Republicans here today.
Well, I want your vote.
But we sound like we feel like we could be converted.
Absolutely.
Anyway, I've always been for the conservative type lifestyle. I mean, I'm retired police firefighter. We have a pension plan which comes through the state police and fire, and we are comfortable that our hospitalization rates have gone up tremendously since I retired a few years ago. And the hospital, the pills, the deductibles are always going up on us, and our fund is solvent now. We have, a solvent fund, and our hospitalization is not guaranteed. Our pension is more or less guaranteed for 30 years or whatever. But anyway, that's my comment is, could some of this defense be cut somewhere? I mean, we like she said, I was concerned about that too. All these countries, we've helped countries for years. I mean, my mom back in 1900, she said when she was a child, they were sending money to China back then, and to help people. And we're a very gracious country that way. But I don't want to take too long here.
Well,
go ahead.
Yeah. Well,
Thank you for coming.
thank you for your comments. If we end the war in Iraq in an honorable way, we will save money that we can invest here in the United States. I understand that right now we're spending about $196 billion on Iraq and Afghanistan. 196 billion, close to $200 billion. And that's not part of the defense budget. That is separate from what we spend on defense. You see, we have a whole regular appropriation for the Defense Department and all the branches of the armed services, and we tack on top of that $200 billion that we're not really paying for. We're just taking out a credit card from the Bank of China, essentially. We're borrowing that money, and we've added $4 trillion worth of debt since George Bush took office. Keep in mind, just to give you some perspective, the first 42 presidents amassed $5 trillion worth of debt. So the first 200 and something years of our existence as a nation, we added up $5 trillion. George Bush by himself, number 43, almost doubled it. And every year that we are in Iraq, every month we're in Iraq, we're just adding to it. And this is money that our kids and our grandkids are going to have to pay back. This is part of the disagreement that I've got with John McCain. He was saying the other day on the Today Show, this was just 2 days ago, he said, well, as long as there aren't U.S. casualties, then it really doesn't matter how long we stay in Iraq. Because we've stayed in Europe for a long time, in Germany, we stayed in Korea, in the Korean Peninsula for 50 years now. It's not that big a deal. Listen, first of all, he's absolutely right. Obviously, the thing we're most concerned about is making sure that young men and women are not being killed. No disagreement there. But our mere presence in these countries costs us $10 to $12 billion a month. Every month. That's money that we could be using to retrain the workers that are going to be laid off It's money that we could be using to rebuild roads and bridges and putting people back to work here in Ohio. It's money that we could be using to send your grandchildren to college. It's money that we could be using to help reduce some of the burdens on the healthcare system. It's money we could be using to help train more nurses because we've got a nursing shortage. There's so much we could be doing with that money. It's money we could be investing. If by the time this Iraq war is all over, we will have at least spent $1 trillion. It'll probably be closer to 2. $1 trillion, probably closer to 2. If we had put that money into research on developing new sources of energy or new ways of running our automobiles, imagine over the last 5 years, what kinds of discoveries could we have had? But we haven't done it. So there is a cost to this, and not to mention, by the way, all those military families who've seen their loved ones go on 2 or 3 or 4 tours of duty. There's a burden on them. Michelle was talking to some military wives who'd seen their husbands deployed 2 or 3 or 4 times. You can't tell me that it doesn't matter how long they're there. So that money can be saved. Now, we're going to have to spend some money. Some of that money that's saved, we've got to spend on taking care of our veterans, which we haven't done as well as we should. We've got to provide screening for post-traumatic stress disorder. We've got to make sure that they're getting mental health services. The notion that we've got homeless veterans is inexcusable. We should have zero tolerance for veterans living on the streets. Every single one of them should be taken care of. We're going to have to reset our National Guard. I'm going to have to make this, it looks like the last question.
I'd just like to say one thing, because my top issues has been Social Security and the war, and I would like to see when you're distributing benefits for our veterans, I really feel that any service man or woman that's deployed in Iraq or Afghanistan or whatever, I'd like to see their mortgages be put on hold until they return, so that when they do return home, they don't have to face foreclosure. Yeah. Because to me, I think that's something that should be worked on for our veterans.
Yeah, that's a great point. You know, this has actually been that's a great point. This is a problem with the home foreclosure crisis taking place. You've actually got folks who are deployed who are trying to call back to negotiate with banks who have jacked up their interest rates and are at risk of losing their homes. And I like your idea. I think that my basic view is, as long as they're serving, first of all, that job should be there for them when they get back. And if their financial situation gets worse, partly because they're getting paid worse in the military than they were on their job and they've got fewer options to earn income, they shouldn't have to be worrying about whether or not their family's being kicked out of the home. That's completely inexcusable. So, well, listen, all of you have been very gracious. I know it's been warm in here. You've hung in there with me. I just want to repeat, the main message I want to deliver today is that we have to make sure that retirement security is strengthened by the next president.